Hi, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. It's Monday, April 15th, 2019. And I see this guy. I've been subscribed to his channel for a long time, and he went off, stopped producing stuff, and came back, and I just don't see. I watch his stuff, and I just don't see what the point is. So every once in a while, he'll have a Bernie Sanders coverage, like of a speech or something, and I'll be like, well, this is, and he won't even talk about it on it, so I'm cool with that. I include that quite often in my playlist. But, he over-rationalizes things, he over-intellectualizes things. I have a piece on progressivism, and yeah, I spell it with a Z. I'm trying to promote the idea of a phonetic alphabet and a world language so that we can all talk. People of the world can all speak to each other. So I spell anything that, it's not progressivism, it's progressivism with a Z. So I just think that we should spell things the way they sound. But if you want to understand progressivism, you can go read in terms of this, you can go read it. Progressivism to me is a product of the communist movement from the 20s and earlier, going all the way back in history. And it's just people who care. That's all it is. And how, like I said in my description of progressivism, there's as many ways to care as there are people. And communism, progressivism, it's all the same thing. They all have one thing in common: they care about people. So I don't really, I've tried to listen to this guy's stuff, and honestly, I understand why some people won't want to listen to my stuff. That's fine, because people are people, right? There's always going to be some people who just find what you say, and or even just how you say it, objectionable, and that's fine. That's the world, and as I say, I didn't invent the world, I just live in it. So I don't care, I don't mind. If you hate my stuff, don't watch it. But if you do want to take the time to watch my stuff, you'll notice I don't waste a lot of time trying to, I went to the best schools and all that kind of crap. I don't waste my time on trying to convince you that I'm smart. I don't try to use big words. As a matter of fact, I'm constantly trying to, dumb it down. Keep it as, if there's a word that everybody uses all the time, instead of some big fancy word, I will always use that word if I think to, Sometimes you don't think to. So, if you're wondering why you don't see a lot of pieces by this guy, maybe you follow him, maybe you like him. It's just that. It's just, I don't have anything against him. He's a hard-working, struggling guy, just like me, trying to be the name of his YouTube channel is New Progressive Voice. And by all means, if you like him, or even if you don't know who he is, check him out. I mean, I do want to promote anything progressive, obviously, but yeah, he's just too nerdy for me. I will use him though when I see that, because I don't want to do this. I mean, do you think I want to spend part of my day? No. I'm on here because I'm a progressive. I'm one of the original anti-Hillary activists. But straight up Democrat, huh? I've never lost faith in real Democrats. Just the fake ones, the corporate ones. Lost faith in them, you know. Throughout Obama, I was constantly losing my religion. Eventually, completely lost it. So, you know, anything progressive, but do yourself a favor. Don't try to understand progressivism or the progressive movement. You know, progressive was a party, and it was after they killed, and I say they killed Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and they took over. They did the same thing after Lincoln, you know, and he was a Republican, so it doesn't really matter what party you're in. So the Progressive Party originally was Theodore Roosevelt and turn of the century, and then Franklin Delano Roosevelt was killed, and the party had to elect or put somebody in, and basically they subverted the party, the Democratic Party, and took it over with a conservative, Truman. They forced him onto the ticket and then killed FDR, in my opinion. Pretty sure. I mean, they say follow the money. Well, how about just follow the results? You know, don't you have to wonder when communists and socialists and something, when they're so popular, but for some reason somebody else is forced onto the ticket and takes over, and they do the bidding of the establishment. Don't you have to wonder if that wasn't engineered? So anyway, that's where... So the Progressive Party was... I forget who FDR's vice president was, but he was supposed to become president, and they forced him out and made Truman president, who of course dropped the atomic bombs. I doubt that FDR would have dropped atomic bombs on Japan. I mean, they were beat. Everybody knows about all this stuff. And just like they didn't, the establishment didn't like Kennedy because he was getting ready to pull his 1,000 advisors out of Vietnam. That's well known, by the way, by people who really take the time to find out the truth. So they saddled him with LBJ and killed Kennedy, and they got their war, right? Well, I say the same thing with FDR, obviously the same thing with Lincoln. And yes, these people are in cahoots with European conservatives. They're all working together. In the case of John Wilkes Booth, there was a established connection with the British. Matter of fact, they ran the whole assassination out of Canada, and they supported the South, and within weeks they had a 32nd level Freemason as president. Andrew or something, I forget, Johnson. Yeah, I think Andrew Johnson or somebody. So that's where progressivism comes from, and all of that comes from, you can crush people. They crushed people in the 20s. And at the turn of the century, they took everything over. They created the Federal Reserve. Everything. They did everything. You can do that, and it seems like you're in charge. But then FDR gets elected. And why does he get elected? Because there were millions of people who were upset. They cared. That's what progressives are. We care. They cared about what they saw. They cared about Carnegie hiring, I think it was Carnegie, maybe it was Morgan, I don't know. Anyway, one of those guys hiring thugs on horses to run down people, and people died. And that's why they ran to join the communist movement. And I don't know whether the communist movement hooked up with the Russians or not. Maybe some of them did. Maybe some of them felt so disenfranchised by America that they turned to communist Russia. I don't know, and I don't really care. We didn't get taken over by the Russians by any means. And I don't think we ever would have, regardless of whether we had McCarthyism or not. I don't think that was ever a possibility. So, the progressive movement was born out of that, though. They were trying to retain the people's choice, who was FDR's pick as vice president. He just got saddled with Truman. And you can go read about that if you want. Go read about the Progressive Party. And go watch my I have a playlist called Seeing Red. Go watch or look up Seeing Red, I don't know, maybe communism or something, and learn about all that, because it's really important that you people learn where all this came from, because it doesn't come from some kind of desire to overthrow some kind of anarchy or something. It comes from people caring. I mean, just the opposite of what you're told. I mean, we're all told that communism is all about just being jealous of rich people and wanting to take over the world and run the world. I don't want to run the world. I don't even want to have to help run the world. I'm retired, man. I'm doing this simply because I care so deeply about the American people. And about myself. I mean, I do want to be taken care of in my old age. I don't want to end up dying horribly because there's a bunch of Americans out there who've been brainwashed into believing that it's all right not to care about anybody but yourself. Selfishness. I don't want that. So yeah, it's self-interest too. I'm not going to lie to you. So, I put, So you can go here and they're the Bull Moose Party, and you'll find out what happened with the well, just follow the links. Follow the links. You'll get to hear the New Deal, Democratic Party coalition of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Okay, I don't know where it is. Go ahead and look for it. It's obviously not here. Going out of business, huh?
Yeah.
Get some video before they close. Get your some silly dream. See, this has this only goes to 1916. Well, the Progressive Party actually went to the 60s, so I don't know where I read about that, or not the 60s, the late 50s, I think. I either read it here and it's gotten lost in here somewhere later years. From 1916 to 1932, Taft wing controlled the Republican Party, refused to nominate any prominent 1912 progressives to the ticket. Frank Knox nominated vice president 1936 relative. I can't remember where I get this stuff. You'll have to find it. I don't have time right now in the middle of a segment to track it down. So just take my word for it, okay? I know I ask you guys to do that a lot, but so his vice president, I don't even have time to do that. So his vice president did try to run against Truman, I believe, and didn't beat him. And I don't know, I thought I was talking about progressives, but somebody, I don't know, it was something to do with unions, and the party ended up petering out and didn't really, to me, the progressive, maybe it's the progressive movement, I don't know. I'll have to look it up, and I'll have to do another piece sometime on it. But it all started with people just being upset with the treatment of other Americans. That's all that it was. It's not. We weren't communists. We weren't. Yes, a lot of people had come to understand what communism meant in terms of social justice. I'm not saying that wasn't part of it. I'm just saying that no matter what people believed, they were all trying to figure out just a way that they could do something about these tyrants that were running the country. And isn't that why Bernie's here? Because we tried Obama and we found out he was owned too, and everybody's just trying to find a candidate that they can trust to really stand up to, you know, whether it's Big Pharma or the oil and gas or Wall Street, the banks. I mean, we don't want them running our country. We want to run our own country. So that's what it's all about. I mean, you've all learned that since 2000. You know, some of you already knew it. I'm not saying that everybody learned this from me or something, but a lot of you have learned it since Bernie's run. And those of you that and many of you learned it like I did, from waiting and hoping that Obama was going to stand up for us and do represent us.
Yeah. That's the guy right there. He's feeling sorry for himself.
So this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News, and I hope that you've learned a little bit about being progressive. I don't know what he's talking about here. Universal basic income is pretty basic and pretty easy to understand, right?
Goes all the way into the next one.
Watching the trains go by. Yeah, I mean, universal basic income is all about just alleviating the suffering. I mean, we're all going to have to face the fact with automation that, and as long as capitalism is in place and automation comes, obviously we're not going to put the people to work doing the things that need to be done. So we're going to have to find a way to alleviate the suffering that's going to come from that, and the suffering that already exists. You know, people, I've made it clear in some of my previous broadcasts that 1 in 3 Americans doesn't have an income. I mean, all you have to do is get on here on maybe I read it here, but all you have to do is get on here and look it up. Look up how many Americans there are over 18. Look at how many of them are gainfully employed, have filed taxes, and do the math. 1 in 3 Americans over 18 doesn't have a source of income, at least according to the IRS. 1 in 3. 1 in 3. Okay? No shit. No shit. Stop and think about that. I mean, all your programming and your propaganda doesn't want you to even try to rationalize that. I mean, think about it. When you look out into a crowd, 1/3 of it gets no money. The only way that they are possibly getting money is either through the black market or off of each other. You know, sponging off of each other. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, not negative at all. I mean, if 1 in 3 Americans does it, then how can you criticize it, right? I mean, how can you say, I mean, it's a way of life in America, right? Right? And that's not even counting all the kids, right? All the people under 19, okay? I'm going to look here real quick. You might want to read this with me. I'm just trying to see. So, although a minority of Southern Democrats voted for Harry F. Byrd, party leaders prevailed upon Roosevelt to drop Vice President Wallace. Okay, so Wallace was he was Roosevelt's pick from the ticket, so they prevailed upon Roosevelt. Well, that means that they somehow gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it has ominous tones, right? Wallace from the ticket, believing him to be an electoral liability and a poor potential successor in case you die. I mean, we'd hate for that to happen. Roosevelt preferred Behrens as Wallace's replacement, but was convinced to support Harry S. Truman of Missouri, who had earned renown for his investigation of war production inefficiency. Whatever. I mean, how does somebody qualify to be president of the United States? Because they knew that's what they were talking about. Truman defeated Wallace to win the nomination. How do you remove a sitting vice president against the will of the president in an election? This sounds like more DNC type bullshit, you know? Okay, and then they talk about the Republicans. The opposition lambasted Roosevelt and his administration for domestic corruption, bureaucratic inefficiency. Of course, he saved the United States. He was president where he won a war, and then on top of that he saved with the New Deal. But the Republicans were still, oh look, he's ruining the country, he's corrupt. Roosevelt and Truman won the 44 election by a comfortable margin. Apparently the American people didn't agree with them, and conservatives, Republicans couldn't buy enough votes or media to completely ruin that. Defeating Dewey and made run around brink of 53. Okay, so that's how that worked out, right? And maybe in here somewhere we can find out what I was talking about. So this talks about Roosevelt's activities up to his death. So I'm not surprised that Stalin and Roosevelt were at odds, because Stalin was not a communist. Everybody loves to point at Stalin as the quintessential communist and say that communists are dictators. Bullshit. Bullshit. Always Stalin. They can't even really point to Mao, because Mao wasn't like Stalin. He didn't purposely starve whole countries to death and kill. Like what Mao did was he had to make tough decisions. He did have to fight wars to protect China, but he had to make tough conditions. He actually did let some people in China starve in order to feed people in North Korea, in Vietnam, and the other communists, or at least not, they weren't communists actually at the time, but they would become communists when the United States put their boot on their neck. So that doesn't surprise me that he was at odds with Stalin. Gee, he had a terrific headache and he died. He was fine. And he just died. Now, I'm not buying it. Dulles and all these assholes, conservative, the establishment, they killed him. They had some new wonder drug that they could used to kill him off. That's what that was all about. Yeah, that looks like a poisoning to me. Cerebral hemorrhage caused by an undetectable poison. 63 is kind of an early age to die too, isn't it? Especially for the President of the United States. With only the... No doubt he had only the best health care. Okay, so he dies. And then, of course, they're going to have to pick, they're going to have a new president. Obviously, Truman is going to be the president. And the atomic bombs are dropped. And let's see if we can get to the part where Truman runs in the next election. They're really not going there with this. Well, see, they get right up to there. So, so you're gonna have to find out. You're gonna have to get to that next election to find out what I'm talking about. Because I'm talking about I'm pretty sure. So let's go back and find what's his name. So let's go back here. Harry F. Byrd. I bet what I did was I had to plug this in. So Wallace, where's his? Election 1944. So that's when they got rid of Wallace. Let's go back to his. This is, maybe this is good that you're getting to see this, because this is research. And yes, a lot of it is done right here. So 44, so 1940, we want the 1940 election. How about we just do this? 1940 United States presidential election. Okay, and we get okay, and now let's do a quick search. Find vice. Okay, vice president. Here he is, Henry A. Wallace. And you can see, because it's turned purple, that I've clicked on it. So I went here, and then I went here, and I learned about this guy. This is it. This is where I was. So, served as Secretary of Agriculture under President Roosevelt, 33 to 40. Strongly supported Roosevelt's New Deal. Presided over a major shift in agriculture. So, 40 presidential election. Tenure 44. Election. So after the abolition of the BEW, I'm not sure what the BEW is, but speculation began as to whether Roosevelt would drop Wallace from the ticket. I have no idea what that's about. I would have to go backwards, and I'm not going to do that at this point. So, Wallace was by far the most popular choice for vice president among Democrats, and many journalists predicted that he would win renomination, and he would have been president instead of Truman if that had happened. So others were concerned about Wallace's unorthodox religious views and pro-Soviet statements. So in other words, Russia did it. Shortly before, the 44 Democratic Convention party leaders such as Robert E. Hannigan, obviously the DNC of the past, and Edwin W. Pauley convinced Roosevelt to sign a document expressing support for either Associate Justice William O. Douglas or Senator Harry S. Truman for the vice presidential nomination. Nonetheless, Wallace convinced Roosevelt to send a public letter to the convention chairman in which he stated, "I would vote for Wallace's renomination." Okay, with Roosevelt not fully committed to keeping or dropping Wallace, the vice president's balloting turned into a battle, and they got rid of Wallace in favor of Truman. So they saddled him with a conservative, another Texas Southern Democrat, and then killed them. I'm sorry, I can't see it any other way. Okay, so this is probably where I get. So obviously in 44 they lost, so let's try and find 1948. Here we go, 1948, and here it is, Progressive Party, United States. And I mean, I have to blame, I hate to say it because he was the guy. You know, Wallace was our guy. But he played politics with this, something to do with, I mean, first of all, he couldn't distance himself from the Soviet Union. And on top of that, I mean, in the minds of the American people, and certainly Stalin was a problem. So, but on top of that, there's something in here about unions and Okay. Sorry, some of my recordings are... So if you go here and you look at the Progressive Party 1948, you'll find out about the demise of the party. All this stuff through here. Just go ahead and read it if you want to know what happened to the Progressive Party of the United States. If Bernie isn't able to do it this time, I say we restart this party. There's no other party. The Socialist Party, the name is wrong. I'm sorry. I hate to be picky, but they've so demonized socialism, and progressivism is really what we're talking about here. I mean, we need to start up. You guys do it. I'm not interested in doing this shit, but I'm putting it out there for you. You guys need to do it. So let's start up. If Bernie doesn't become the president in 2020, let's do that. Restart this party, and all of you can go here and learn about what happened, and it's good to know, because this guy Henry Wallace, who ran on the Progressive Party ticket, and I believe I believe that I'm right when I talk about how Theodore Roosevelt, yeah, see? This is going to be... See, it's the same. I think it's the same, right? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Certainly, it's come and gone, and so yeah, I think we actually ran across this already, right? I remember the moose, talking about the moose. So, there you have it in a nutshell. You want to understand progressivism, you need to understand the Progressive Party, you need to understand progressives, you need to understand that what I'm talking about, and in terms of understanding what progressivism itself is all about, I did a whole segment So if you go to, anybody can go to YouTube and look up my home, my videos, my playlist, and this is my news segments. So these are all my news segments. This is going to be my latest one that I'm going to put out today. DCCCCC, loyalty oath is a gift to progressives. So if you go down to the very bottom, if I haven't, because it always adds them onto the bottom. So the very last one is number 237. It'll be 238, 239, depending on how much I add, and then more and more, obviously, every time I add a segment. But I have this segment. What is progressivism? And yes, I smell it with a Z. Now everybody's got this pie, right? The white people have got this big piece of pie. But now, when you look at the table, the pie on the table, actually, most of the pie is still there. It belongs to the rich, the ultra-rich.
They've got the pie.
So you can go here
So, or let's say they have,
and
instead of a pie,
understand
they have
progressivism.
a pie making machine. So they can make all the pie they want. Well, they can. I mean, they're limited by how much they have to work with, the resources, and they have all that. They have all the resources, right? In real life. I mean, if they don't outright own it, they control it, and they can take it away from the people who supposedly own it. I mean, in theory, I always thought that owning something meant you owned it, but that's not how it works in this country. You can have a piece of paper or a deed down at the courthouse or whatever, but you know, if the rich guy wants to take it away from you, all he has to do is eliminate your income, eliminate your savings. And when you can't finally pay your taxes, they'll take it away from you. Or a multitude of other ways. I mean, you can buy it off you. And then, so anyway, so he's got the pot.
Okay, so that's progressivism, and you can look that up on the internet, find it somehow. This is Martin Drummond with Progressive News, and I hope I've been helpful today. You understanding progressivism, and don't get distracted by other people's stuff. Intellectuals, nerds. Watch out, beware of the nerds.